Hello, dear viewer. You are most welcome to this lesson. We are going to discuss Primary 6 content and we are continuing with our workbooks. Today, we are continuing with our subtopic that is about transport in East Africa. And in the previous lesson, we were looking at the other types of modern transport. We talked about road transport, and then also we discussed about water transport. Today, we are going to be talking about air transport that we find on page 109 of our workbooks. So if you have your workbook, kindly go to that page 109. Air transport, like we have been discussing, like we have been defining all the other types, we shall be saying this is the movement of people or goods. We shall define air transport saying air transport is the movement of people or goods. Remember yesterday in the other lesson we said it can be goods being moved from one place to another, or it can be people being moved from one place to another, or sometimes both. People can be moving with their goods. It's also okay to say that. So air transport now means the movement of people or goods from one place to another, and this is done by air. That is how we are going to define air transport. When we are defining road transport, remember we said it's the movement of people from one place to another on roads. When it came to water transport, it was the same. We said movement of people from one place to another on water. Now here we are looking at it done in the air. That's why we are saying it's done, it's the movement of people from one place to another by air. Meaning people move, fly from one place to another. Of course, when it comes to moving by air, we shall also be able to note that we have those things that are used, those means that are used to fly people from one place to another in the air. So we shall be looking at that as the means of air transport. But before we look at that, we are going to understand that this type of transport is the quickest. It is the quickest type of transport, which means there is no any other type of transport which is as quick as this quickest type of transport that we have in East Africa. Not only in East Africa, but in the whole world. This is the quickest type. If we are to compare it with the ones that we have already finished to talk about, we compare air transport with the road transport, you find road transport becomes slower than this. When we compare it with water transport, of which with water transport we already say that it's the slowest, so we cannot even bring that comparison. Then we are also saying that this type of transport, air transport existed before these East African countries got their independence. That is the sentence that we are having on that page. And then we should also be able to note, as we said earlier on, that for people to move from one place to another, there should be things that aid this. Those are the ones we are going to talk about as the means of air transport. Like I've said, when we talk of means, we are looking at things which are used. Which things are being used in that type of transport. So here, we are going to look at things like helicopters. We have aeroplanes. We have things like rockets. Then we can also have things like the parachutes. parachutes. People can also use parachute to move in the air. That is from one place to another. Someone flies in that parachute. So even that parachute becomes another example of air transport. And then we are having, when we talk of air transport, of course, for us in Uganda, remember, we have Entebbe International Airport. That is the international airport that we have in Uganda. And then for Kenya, they have that is Nairobi. And then in Tanzania, we have Dar es Salaam there, then also Arusha there. We also have other international airports like Zanzibar, Kilimanjaro, Kigali, that is for Rwanda, and then we have Bujumbura for Burundi. And then don't forget, we also have Mombasa, that is for Kenya. So all these are the examples of the international airports that we have in East Africa. I have said for us in Uganda, ours is called Entebbe International Airport. We also have airstrips alongside the airports. We also have airstrips like we have Kololo airstrip, that is for Uganda. And then we have the advantages of air transport that we are going to be discussing. Advantages of air transport. So the first advantage, we already say this is the quickest type of transport, which means it can, or it is good for transporting what we call perishable goods. So the first advantage we have is it is quick. And we are saying since it is quick, since it's the quickest, then it is good for the transportation of what we call bulky, perishable goods. Of course, we need to note, we can say it is good. It's good for transporting. It's good for transporting perishable goods. It is good for transporting perishable goods. Now, what do we mean by perishable goods? Perishable goods are things that can get spoiled very fast or within the shortest time possible. We can say goods or things that go bad easily, things that can get spoiled easily. That is how we define perishable goods. We can have our sentence here saying perishable goods are goods, or we can say are the things that can go bad. A lot of words we can use. If we don't want to say that can go bad, we can also say that can get spoiled. That can get spoiled easily. Meaning these things or these goods, these items can become rotten, or they can rot, they can go bad, they can become damaged. Within the shortest time possible, they can be, they become spoiled. So if we are to look at the examples of these perishable goods, before we continue with other advantages, examples of perishable goods. Examples of such things which can go bad easily, things which can get spoiled within the shortest time possible. We shall be having items like things like milk. You will find that milk, after it has been drawn from the cow, after it has been milked from the cow, you'll find that if not delivered or used within the shortest time possible, it goes bad. More so if it is not well preserved. And then we have other things like flowers. Flowers, we have things like tomatoes. We have things like fresh meat, fish, and very many other things. So those things that can get bad, that can get spoiled within the shortest time, when you look at milk, like I've said, if not well, well stored or well preserved, it can go bad. It cannot even end 24 hours. That's a day. When you look at flowers, you will find that after flowers have been harvested from the garden, they need to be delivered to their destination very fast. If there is delay, then they will begin to wilt. They will begin to dry up, and of course, they will not again be used the way they will be used when they are fresh. So for that case, we shall be looking at also things like tomatoes. You find that tomatoes, after they have become ready for use, you'll find they need to be used within the shortest time possible. If they are left for some other time, they will go bad, they will rot, and that will be a problem. The same applies to things like meat, things like fish. They can get spoiled easily, meaning within the shortest time possible. That is the meaning of easily. For that case, we can be asked a question as primary 6 children, that what type of transport is best for transporting flowers from Uganda to America, from Uganda to Europe, from Africa to Europe. So if we are asked such a question, kindly know that flowers are perishable goods, which means they are to be delivered to their destinations in the shortest time possible. Delay, they will go bad, they will get spoiled. So that will be air transport. A question can be asked. John wants to transport his flowers from Uganda to maybe Nairobi. Then the question says, what type of transport can you advise John to use? You have to advise me to use air transport. Reason being, air transport is very quick, because they can even ask you, give a reason to support your answer. Why do you say it should be air transport? You will simply say it is the quickest, meaning it can deliver these flowers within the shortest time possible before they become spoiled. So that is what we need to know about perishable goods. The other one is that it is not hindered by other physical features. Air transport, that is now another. Let us use numbering. This one was number 1, this was the second one, and this what took us to perishable goods. Now we are coming to the third advantage of air transport, and here we are saying it cannot be hindered, or we can simply say it cannot be affected. This type of transport cannot be affected by jam. There is no jam in the air. You will find that things like cars on the road can be affected by jam. But in the air, planes they just move. They fly from one area. There is nothing like jam in the air. So that becomes another advantage. And also, it cannot be affected by physical features. Like for us, when we are using road transport, you will find that a road was to go, then there is like a mountain, so you find the road is twisted and it takes another direction. So such hindrances are always there on roads. Then the other one says this type of transport connects distant places. That is now the fourth advantage. It connects distant places. Distant places, we are now meaning places which are far from each other, being connected or being joined or linked. Like when we are looking at aeroplanes flying, you find that an aeroplane can fly from Entebbe, that is in Uganda, it goes to Kigali, that is in Rwanda, it can go to maybe Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, it can go to maybe Dar es Salaam, that is in Tanzania, it can go to Mombasa, Kenya. So you'll find that such areas are connected because of this type of transport. That's why we are saying it connects places, which are far. Those are the ones we call distant places. Then the other one is, this type of transport is more comfortable. It is more comfortable. It's more comfortable. Than than others. It is more comfortable than others. Now, which others are we looking at here? It is more comfortable than others like road transport. Yesterday we said, in the other previous lesson we said, with the road transport, you will find that there can be some things that can be on roads, things like potholes. And when the car reaches there, you find people jerking up and down. So when you look at things like there are some roads that have humps. So you'll find that such disturbances, that jerking. And then also we have things like we have some roads with corrugation. You find such areas are not, people will not be comfortable. You are not comfortable. There is some shaking, disturbing you when you are in that seat. But when it comes to air transport, because we don't have the humps in the air, we don't have those potholes, we don't have that corrugation, so you'll find the aeroplane moves steadily and it reaches its destination. That is what we are saying, that it is more comfortable than others. Then the last one in our book says that this type of transport works on a fixed timetable, unlike others. For it works on a fixed timetable, which this one can also become a disadvantage in that it does not become, it is not reliable, or it's not there like for others that you can access at any time. Remember, we're looking at road transport and you said it provides door-to-door services. So this one does not. It works on a timetable. So you need to manage time. So this one can cut across. It can be here as well as becoming a disadvantage, as we are now moving to these advantages of air transport. We are now looking at why air transport is not good. The first answer, of course, we need to note that this type of transport is very expensive. It is very expensive. I'm sure we have been asked questions. Why is air transport not used by the majority of people in our country? Why is air transport used by a few people? Of course, the reason is this type of transport is expensive to be managed by everyone. So you'll find that some people cannot be able to raise all that money which is needed for them to use air transport. Therefore, it becomes expensive. Then it requires a lot of space to construct the airports. It requires a lot of space, to construct the airports. Remember, these planes, these aircrafts have to land on that airport. They cannot land anywhere. They have to, so there must be an airport or an aircraft or airfield where they are to land. So there is need for that land, which may not be easy also to get. And then in case this aircrafts get an accident, in case of air accident, you will find that there are very few chances of people surviving. Unlike with others, maybe with water transport, you will find someone, when the boat capsizes, maybe someone knows how to swim, so you can survive. You can swim and you rescue yourself. Or you are wearing maybe a life jacket, you can remain floating. Or people can at least rescue you. But when it comes to air transport, yes, when the plane crashes, you will find everyone goes. So in the case of an accident, chances of surviving are very few. That's what we are saying here. In the case of an accident, there are very few chances. There are very few chances of one surviving. There are very few chances of one surviving, meaning people will die. Chances of surviving are very minimal. And then, or sometimes this type of transport can be affected by bad weather. Remember, we need to note about weather. Sometimes you find there are storms, and it makes these pilots not to see well, and as a result, they can get an accident. So we are saying it can be affected by bad weather. It can be affected by bad weather. So these things make air transport to be difficult or not to be used, and it becomes a disadvantage. And also we need to note that when it comes to maintaining these airports and also maintaining these aeroplanes, it becomes very expensive. So still we shall say it is very expensive to maintain these airports and the aircrafts. Those are the ones that we use in flying from one place to another in air. Then we also need to note that at the airport is an instrument that we call a windsock. A windsock at the airport. A windsock at the airport. This instrument can be found in the airports or airfields or in the airstrips. What are they for? You find this instrument can be drawn like this. I believe you know what I am drawing. This is the instrument that we call a windsock. So how is this windsock useful in that airport? How is it used at the airport? This instrument helps to tell or to show the direction of wind to the pilot, such that the pilot directs the plane according to the direction of the wind. So when we are asked for the importance of a windsock at the airport, we simply say a windsock is used. It is used to show the direction of wind to a pilot. So that is what we are also adding to our knowledge. This one is missing in your book, but you can be having it as a way of you helping yourself. And then now we are going to another type of transport. This has been about air transport. We are now going to look at railway transport. So we are going to talk about railway transport, and when it comes to railway transport, this one we find it on page 111. That is where we begin having that type of transport, on page 111. Now, what do we mean by railway transport? Just like the way we have been defining other types of transport, we have been saying movement of people from one place to another depending on what type we are talking about. So here now, we are going to maintain our very definition. Railway transport, we shall still say, it means the movement of people. Railway transport means the movement of people or goods from one place to another by trains. This is what we mean by railway transport. Movement of people or goods from one place to another by trains, which means that we are going to understand here that the only means of railway transport is a train. We have trains grouped into two types of trains that are used in railway transport. Types of trains. These trains, I have said, we have got two types of these trains, and we get the type depending on what that train carries. We have the trains that are for carrying people. Those ones we shall be calling them passenger trains. These ones are for carrying people, passengers. So we shall call them passenger trains. Then we have the other ones that we call cargo trains. Now, the cargo trains are the ones that carry cargo. What do we mean by cargo? Those are goods now. So we have two types of trains, passenger trains, and then we have the cargo trains that we are saying. The cargo means goods, which means these ones are the ones which are used for transporting goods from one place to another. We are having the first railway line to be constructed in East Africa that we call the Usambara Railway. Also, we are having it as Tanga Koroge Railway, and we are saying it was constructed by the German government, that is in Tanganyika. Remember, that is now the country that we call Tanzania. It was ruled by the Germans. Then from there we have what we call the Tanzam Railway or the Tazara Railway. We are having it on our book, that is page 112, telling us that the Tanzam, also known as Tazara Railway. Now this one, Tanzam, means Tanzania and Zambia, which means we are having two countries here. We have Tanzania, Tanzania, and then we have Zambia, Tanzania, Zambia. That is the meaning of this Tanzam, Tanzania, Zambia. So we are saying this railway line was constructed by the Tanzanian and the Zambian governments, that is from 1970 up to 1975, and of course this was to link Tanzania to link Zambia to Tanzania. We are having the reasons for its construction. The first one we have already said, it was constructed to link Zambia to the coast of East Africa. That is the first reason. Then the second reason says that it was constructed to link, to ease the transportation of copper ore, that is from Zambia, copper belt, that is where the copper was being mined at that time, up to Dar es Salaam, that is now at the coast. Remember, we talked about Dar es Salaam and Mombasa. Those are the seaports that we are having in East Africa that promote trade. So we have Dar es Salaam at the coast, and we are saying this railway line was now constructed to join Zambia to the coast, that is to Dar es Salaam, and also to ease the transportation of copper ore from the Zambia copper belt, that is where copper was being mined from, up to Dar es Salaam, where it could be exported. And then we also say that it was also constructed to develop the southern part of Tanzania. That was by then. And then we have the advantages of railway transport. The advantages of railway transport shall have advantages, and also we shall be looking at the disadvantages. The advantages, the first one, we are having it saying, this type of transport is good for carrying bulky goods. It is good for transporting bulky goods. That is the first one. If we watch the other previous lesson, that is when we are talking about road transport and water transport. When it came to water transport, we said this is the one which transports more bulky goods than any other. So we need to know that much as railway transport also helps in transporting bulky goods, of which we say bulky goods refers to heavy goods, two main goods, if I were to simplify it in that way. Much as railway transport also carries many goods, that is bulky goods, we have water transport which carries now more bulky goods than this. And it's the one we say there is no other type that transports more bulky goods than water transport, as we looked at in the previous lesson. Here we are saying this type of transport is less affected by bad weather. Cannot be affected. Remember, for it, you find the trains move on that railway. So on those rails. So here there is nothing like being hindered by transport. So we can say it is less affected by bad weather. And then the other one says it links different places together, just like we had for the other one of air transport. Even this one links. To link means to join. So we can simply say it links, or we can say it links, it joins distant places. Or you can simply say it joins towns together. It can join towns together. And then it is cheaper when it comes to affording its costs. You can simply say it is cheap. It's cheaper to afford. That is what we shall be saying. Remember, when we were looking at affording transport fares, we said it is water transport which can be the cheapest. It is very cheap. It's the cheapest, cheaper than any other. And then when we go to the disadvantages of this type of transport, the first one we are having, it cannot take goods and people up to their final destinations. We need to note that this railway transport, like if people are using trains, those trains have got their stations, their terminals where they stop. Therefore, if you are moving and you are to connect to other areas, you now again have to look for another type. So this one does not take people to their final destinations as for the case of road transport. We have said the first one is it does not take people. This type of transport cannot take people or goods to their final destinations. So you find that as you are going to your area, like I have said, the railway station, the railway terminal is here. So it's from that area where it will stop. It cannot again now connect to the road to take you to your place. No, you now have to look for other things. Maybe you can now look for a boda, you can now get a taxi, whatever you can now get to take you to your final destinations, to your home now. That's what we mean. For them, they cannot. They only stop at those terminals. Then, when it comes to speed, we shall be able to say that comparing it with other types, like road transport and the air transport, it becomes slower. This one is slower. It is slower. Remember yesterday we said the slowest is water transport. This one is also slow. So it is slower than air and water, and road transport. And then when it comes to constructing these railway lines where these trains pass, you'll find that it will become very expensive, and also maintaining them becomes very expensive. So for that case, you will find that this is not easy. On page 114 gives us the construction of the Kenya-Uganda Railway that we are going to call the Uganda Railway. That is a heading that we have on that page 114. The Kenya-Uganda Railway, that we can also call Uganda Railway. Now, there is something that we need to understand here. When we are looking at this railway, you will find that if we are to have our map of East Africa here, you will find that we can be having Uganda this way. And then this side, we shall be having Kenya. So this is what we are now, this is a speed map that we are having to show us the Uganda Railway, whereby we are going to say that this one is called the Uganda Railway, but we are saying that its construction started from Mombasa, that is in Kenya. But we are saying it is also called the Uganda Railway. Why? Simply, we are saying that it is called the Uganda Railway because it was constructed purposely to link. I say to link means to join. It was purposely constructed to link Uganda to the coast. Remember, Uganda is a landlocked country. So when it comes to these goods being exported, being delivered to the coast, Uganda has to get a connection. So this railway line was constructed in order to link Uganda to the coast. This is what we call the Uganda Railway. Remember, this is how we represent the symbol for a railway. So we have the railway coming like this, and it came to, we have a district here that is called Tororo. So that is what we are going to understand. We are saying it is called, that it was constructed by the British colonialists. They are the ones that started, and we are saying it was built, the construction started, that is in Mombasa, that is in 1896 in Mombasa. And we shall be able to understand that this Mombasa started as a center where they could keep these tools which were used in constructing this railway line. But as we speak today, Mombasa is a very industrialized town in East Africa. It's a very big city in Kenya. That is today. So that is what we need to understand about this. And then we shall also be saying that the first people who constructed this were unskilled. Therefore, they brought what we call the Indian coolies. Indian coolies. Now, who were the Indian coolies? The Indian coolies were the people who were brought from India purposely to construct this railway line that we have called the Uganda Railway. Now, why did the Africans refuse to work on that railway line? We have reasons like, one, they did not want to be separated from their family members. They didn't want to go further from their families, so they gave up. And then they wanted to. They were underpaid. That is also another reason. Then I want you to make some corrections. In your book, you will find there is a heading saying on that page 114, why Africans refuse to work on the Uganda Railway. Afterwards. The first one says that they did not want to live very far from their families, as I have already said this. And then the second one says they were underpaid. Then the remaining two there are not falling under here. Those two are supposed to be under the heading why the railway line was constructed. That is why the railway line, that Uganda Railway was constructed. So you are going to put a subheading there before that first point saying to stop slave trade. That is now a reason as to why the railway line was constructed. Sorry about the mistake. The machine printed it without that heading. So kindly fix it there. So why this railway line was constructed? We are saying the first one was to stop slave trade, and then the second one was to make transport easy. Transportation of both people and the goods. Of course, the people we are looking at are the administrators and the person. And then also, the other third reason here is it was also constructed to link Uganda to the coast of East Africa. So those are the reasons as to why this railway line was constructed. We go to the personalities who contributed towards the construction of this railway line. We have names like Sir William Macnon. We are saying William Macnon brought in the idea of constructing the Uganda Railway. Remember, we shall be looking more about that. We shall be talking about more about that. So we are having William Macnon, who brought the idea of constructing the Uganda Railway. Then number two is Captain MacDonald. Captain MacDonald, we are saying he was the chief surveyor. He's the one who surveyed the area where the railway line was going to pass. And then the next person there is Sir George Whitehouse. Sir George Whitehouse was the chief engineer. He was the chief engineer during the construction of that railway line. And then we have Colonel Patterson, who helped to kill the lions. Those are the man-eaters that were attacking these railway builders. You shall also be able to note that when the railway line reached Tsavo National Game Park in Kenya, we have Tsavo National Game Park. This Tsavo National Game Park is well known for having lions, and these lions could eat up these railway constructors, these Indian coolies. So as a result, we have that Colonel Patterson who tried to kill these lions that could eat the people from that game park. And then we are having Sir Guildford Molesworth, and we are saying he was the last engineer who inspected now the completed railway line. That is, after its completion, he now inspected and saw that the work was done well and it was worthy to be used. There are four. We shall be posing a question to ourselves. How did each of these people contribute towards the railway construction? We have already seen that. But there is a name that we need to remember. Who brought the idea? Because without the idea being brought, then these other ones of Captain Donald, Patterson, they would not have done anything. So we give credit to Sir William Macnon, who brought the idea of constructing the railway line. Because we shall be able to understand that at the end of the construction, slave trade reduced in East Africa. How? That is a question that we are going to answer as semi-candidates. How did the completion of the Uganda Railway help to reduce slave trade in East Africa? The answer is very simple. You will find that when this railway line was now brought in to Uganda, from here we have it called extended up to Jinja. We have the railway line extended up to Jinja. From Jinja we have it extended up to Kampala. From Kampala we have it extended up to Western. That is where we have Kasese. Now in Kasese there was copper that was mined at the Kilele mines in Kasese. So we shall be asking ourselves a question: why was the railway line extended to Western, that is to Kasese? The answer is to transport copper from from Kasese up to Jinja for processing. Remember at that time, Jinja was the most industrialized town in Uganda, which had these factories that were processing these things. And then we also have the railway line extended from Tororo up to Soroti, and from Soroti up to Pakwach. We shall be having reasons why it was extended up to Pakwach. You will find that they wanted to collect the tobacco from the West Nile region to be brought to Jinja for processing. And then we also have what we call Namasagari, that is towards the Lake Choga. There is a place that we are calling Namasagari. So in Namasagari was cotton grown. This one we must have learnt about it when we were looking at Sir Hesketh Bell, that is in primary 5. We said he linked the railway line from Jinja to Namasagari to collect cotton from Namasagari to Jinja. So those are other areas that this railway line these railway lines were extended to, and for the different reasons. Now we are still having our question unanswered. How did the completion of the railway line help to reduce slave trade? The answer is it helped to reduce slave trade in a way that the trains were now used to carry the goods instead of people. So we were understanding how the railway line contributed to the end of slave trade in East Africa. We say the goods were now transported by trains instead of people. And then we have the positive results of the construction of the railway line. The first one says it linked Uganda to the coast. Uganda was now linked to the coast of East Africa. And then towns developed along the railway line. Towns like we have in Tororo, Jinja, and very many other towns where the railway line passed through. They developed. And then also we are having slave trade was stopped. Of course, now we have said goods were now transported by trains instead of people. And then it helped to bring employment to the people of East Africa. And then also it made administration easy. That is for the side of the colonialists, because they could now reach other areas easily. The negative effects is that the first one, it led to the exploitation of resources in Africa, in East Africa, because they could now reach anywhere and they could now transport those resources. And then it led to the coming of the white settlers that came to East Africa. Mainly, when we talk of the white settlers, we talk of the British who settled, that is on the slopes of the Kikuyu Highlands, that is in Kenya. That's why we have them settling. And then the railway lines were also constructed in productive areas only. That also became another, something like a bias to some other areas. The problems which were faced by the constructors of the Uganda Railway, we have said, one, they were attacked by these fierce wild animals, like I have talked about the lions at Tsavo National Game Park. They lacked serious laborers, those helpers who could help them. And then some of them could suffer from these tropical diseases, and of course, they lost their lives. And finally, they were attacked by the hostile tribes, for example, in the Nandi and the Maasai in Kenya. And also, we need to know that there were some other people from the communities who could go and steal their tools that they were using for construction. So it also became a problem to them. That is what we can share as for now. Thank you so much for listening to me. I wish you the best.